Mackay.
You're semi-functional.
I'm trying, but Lyme Warrior Life, I'm on the spectrum every day. Slightly functional.
Slightly functional. Between slightly functional and completely unfunctional.
I don't know. What is the little slugs that walk along the sidewalk in the mornings after a rainstorm? That's been me for like the past week, right? Like
Oh. So this is ongoing from the liver detox thing we were having before the last time we talked?
yeah, the liver is healing, the liver is letting go, and I'm just hanging on for dear life while we ride the waves of healing.
So what are you doing to take care of yourself during this? Should we call it a flare or what is this? Or a detox?
Detox flare, I think, is closest we're gonna get. I would just say, nutritionally supporting the body. Food is a huge component of my healing. We talked about broccoli being amazing for women with estrogen issues around that. And other than that, we always say if you feel terrible, you need to take time and rest and lay down. And type A personality like me, not doing particularly well in that area, but I am giving an A for effort as, trying to cut down and allow the body time to heal and process all those things.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. We had talked, at least privately, I don't know if we did it on the podcast, about kind of banking episodes so that
Yeah.
when these sort of things happen, clearly we have not banked any episodes and we may never bank episodes. So for those of you who do listen to us regularly, please bear with us and just know that our intention is to put out an episode every week. However, life happens, Lyme
However, we're
happens.
Lyme patients.
Yes.
We have good intentions.
So just don't hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button if this is on YouTube. I think we put it on YouTube. And so that way you'll get notified when a new episode comes up. And we really are excited about this new format that we have where we play an interview and then comment about it along the way. So this week's episode is an interview with Jordan, and Jordan is somebody who has gone to and through Lyme and has an amazing story to tell. So without further ado, to be cliched is all cliched. Let's get going here. You up for it, Lauren?
Yeah, I can't wait. I love Jordan's story.
All right, let's rock and roll. So, Jordan, welcome. So excited to talk to you. And you don't look like, and I know I hate to see this because I'm going to get beat up by half of you who are really not feeling well and still look great, but you've got a lot of Shen, brightness, spirit coming through your eyes. You got a big smile. You don't look like somebody right now who's under the boot of Lyme disease.
No, no, absolutely not. I would say that 2022 is my first healthy year. And then 2023 was the first year that I kind of accepted that I was healthy and started feeling better. I also had a baby 2 weeks ago. So that's
Congratulations.
I didn't physically have the baby, obviously. My wife did, but we are so excited. And that is also why I have this glow. It's a no sleep, extreme exhaustion and happy glow. But yeah, I don't have Lyme disease anymore. And I know how triggering that can be for people that are still sick, because when I was diagnosed in 2017, I was told it was incurable. I ran into a few people that had told me that they'd gotten through it, and it was hard to accept. So I'm not by any means trying to trigger anybody, but I definitely don't have the illness anymore.
I want to pause there. What does he mean by triggering people by saying I don't have the illness anymore? Why would that trigger
Man.
people?
Well, how hard is it to exist in this world of constant misery, turned away by doctors, and then some other people are lucky enough to get better? I find that it is such a hard space. Is like you want that so much. You want so much what he has, that what he has is almost like hurtful. And I get it. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is.
Okay, so are we torturing people by showing them people who've come through, or are we giving people hope?
I think both, right? Healing is a constant painful journey. And this is part of it, that I want this and I may have it or I may not have it, or it may take a lot longer than I think it is. It's a hard reality, right?
Yeah, I tell some of my younger women patients who are in the dating world trying to find a partner, I tell them dating sucks until it doesn't. And kind of
That is so true.
maybe healing sucks until it doesn't anymore, right?
It's true.
All right, let's get back to the interview. So, how did you get diagnosed? How long did that
That's a great
take?
question. That's a great question. So I was sick with like blood markers off the charts ever since I could remember. When I was young, I was on antibiotics, puffers. They even thought that I had like chronic bronchitis growing up when I was extremely young. And I played elite level sports, so I was always pretty fit, but I'd never focused on nutrition. I was eating like just garbage stuff growing up. It was just part of the culture with like playing hockey. Like you needed something quick to eat, you grab it, you go to the
You're a
game. I was
hockey
young, I had no
player?
idea. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, so just a long-winded way of saying I have no idea when it started, but I had a semester abroad in Australia in 2016, and I started getting these wicked symptoms. I was at the gym one day, and my skin turned to almost cardboard, and I looked like I'd aged 60 years in a matter of 10 seconds. I have a picture of it on my Instagram. I can send it to you after, but it looks like I'm using an Instagram filter. And I was diagnosed that no, I wasn't diagnosed with Lyme. I was told that I was dehydrated and I needed to drink more water. I was prescribed a steroid because it continually happened when I was there, and I was taking steroids every day, and it was pretty brutal on my health. And then when I got home, I dove off home to Canada. I'm Canadian. I dove off of a dock and I hit the bottom of a lake, and I did some serious damage to my neck and head. I had 25 staples in my scalp, caused instability in my C-spine, tore off my rectus capitis from the back of my head. And I was embarrassed by it. So I didn't really tell too many people. And I was working in finance at the time, and the numbers just kept getting smaller and smaller. And then I had to go back to my final year of university where I was a Dean's List scholar. I'm going to kind of pump myself up there. And I just couldn't keep up. By the first round of exams, I had to withdraw from university. And I went into like this extreme bout of depression where it turned into suicidal ideation and more pain. I couldn't even explain the pain. And then my parents were incredible at the time. They still are, but I'm older now. And they were able to get me all of my blood markers done, but nobody could give me any answers. It was pretty crazy. For about a year, I was getting worse and worse from a neck injury. I lost about 50 pounds. I went from being like this athletic build guy down to like 140 pounds, and I was in a neck collar for a period of about 4 years. But after the first year, we started seeing some people that deal with concussion health holistically. And the Sam, who I was seeing there, actually suggested that I get tested for Lyme. I had been tested for Lyme in Canada with like the Western blot, came back negative many times. But I went and I sent my blood out to a couple panels. So one of them was Cyrex in California. They do this whole interesting panel about like food sensitivities, and all of my markers were like off the charts. So they thought that I had some sort of leaky gut. And then I also sent my blood to Armin Labs in Germany, and that's where they test cytokines. So I was told right then that I had Lyme disease and a whole list of co-infections, and we can send you the paperwork if you need to see it.
Let's pause there.
So many thoughts.
I know. That's why I'm pausing.
Oh, I mean, I guess the where to start is like just so dehydration was what they kept pinging me with. You're dehydrated, you're dehydrated. And that's that type A personality that I was Dean's List, working 2 jobs on top of Dean's List. I was an athlete as well, like, pushing, and not accepting that the body was struggling. And it was the steroids for me as well, that they really like turned my life upside down. I think a lot of people say, oh, I was given steroid, then that was the big flare that never ended. So just very close story. I didn't jump off a pier and crunch my neck the way he did. That was just an extra icing for him. But
Interesting that there's so close a parallel with what you're talking about.
yeah.
What I wanted to get your reaction to was testing and the need for
The
good
testing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we'll just hit, of course, that testing is so inaccurate, and so many people have said, I've been tested, and it didn't show anything, or even if it showed a slight positive, doctors say, well, don't worry about that, right? Like, that's insane. He got lucky enough to be in holistic context with somebody who said go overseas. Super unlikely, not usually what happens, but if you are able to do that, that's such an amazing thing to be able to do. And there's more and more options now. I was actually just looking through Galaxy is making really amazing advances, Igenix, Armin, like great testing out there now if you know what to look for.
So let's just go through those again. So the Armin Labs is the one that he did. Good lab.
Yep, Armin Labs.
They're
They were
in
closed during
Germany or
COVID.
Austria, something like that.
Germany, and they
Germany,
they
yeah.
just reopened after COVID to testing Americans again, so they're great. Galaxy Labs is out of North Carolina, really great testing, and I think most people know IGeneX as the leader. So
Yeah. If you feel you need testing done to get your standard health practitioners on board, you have to go beyond. And the problem is, even with those tests, some doctors will just go ahead and dismiss those results. Oh, well, they're not from my lab, so therefore they're not a legitimate test. And that's just such
or
a
I don't
load
understand this
of
lab,
horse.
right?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it is crazy. The lab reports are not that difficult. You know, if the practitioner takes 2 seconds to take a breath and look at them, it's like, oh, I understand what they're saying. And they have all the
Right.
explainer text at the end of it too. So that's just an excuse. If you hear that from a doctor, they're just feeding you a line of baloney, I would say. Donkey poop. All right, Lauren, anything else with this?
No, I like
Other
it.
than don't dive off a pier into shallow water. That's probably
Yes,
good
head
general
injuries
advice.
tend to not help your overall health and well-being.
And there is a tight, we talk about mold and Lyme, but head injuries and Lyme are very closely connected too. And you also brought in the steroids in Lyme too. Because what are
Yeah.
steroids doing? They're suppressing the immune system. They
And
suppress
they're giving the little
inflammation.
bugs wings. They're like, here's your juices. Fly faster.
Exactly. So it's, if you're not doing better on steroids, and a lot of times steroids are given with antibiotics too, because they want to bring down the inflammation. The body maybe is overacting a little bit or prevent the dreaded cytokine storm, which is serious, right? That's sepsis. You don't want to have a cytokine storm. But at
Which
the
is,
same time,
it's not never steroids.
right.
It's steroids in extreme specific certain
Yes.
instances.
Right. And, having cardboard skin is probably unattractive and weird and probably painful, but it may not be the worst thing in the world too, especially if you're getting worse. All right, let's get back in.
But at that point in time, it was like I didn't care that I had Lyme disease. I had no idea what it was. I was still focused on the concussion. I was in extreme pain. I couldn't be outside during the day. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't look at a screen. We couldn't do this call right now. And the depression was just overtaking me. So I'm like, I don't care that I have Lyme disease. I don't know.
Okay, I have to stop there too. The whole mental aspect of this disease
Grueling.
or any chronic illness. I mean, we forget most of us have not been sick long enough to get depressed.
Oh, I disagree. I went through that phase. I lived that phase, and
I meant
crawling out of that phase is brutal.
Sorry, Lauren. I didn't mean people with Lyme. I mean people out in the normal world, right?
The real humans, the untainted humans.
Yes, exactly. The uninfected yet humans. Most people haven't experienced any type of illness, any type of setback that exists long enough to really kick them down. Some people have, and they understand. Most people really have not.
No.
They have not. And it's such a critical piece, and we're finding more and more the whole psychoneuroimmunology piece is massive in Lyme disease.
Gut connection that you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. Gut, brain, vagus nerve,
Yep.
parasympathetic, sympathetic, all the heart, lungs, bowels, kidney, liver. What else am I leaving out?
I just go the insides, right? The pieces from
the viscera, as the Chinese say.
Yes.
And my stubbornness and all of that was pretty apparent until I got to a point where, they started feeding me antibiotics, and I was taking ciprofloxacin, and I ended up tearing my hip labrum, and my shoulder popped out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they told me I needed a new hip at 20 years old. I needed a new shoulder at 20 years old. And that I needed to fuse my spine because my neck just wasn't healing. And I was just like, that's not cool. So my dad had been doing some stuff for his hips down here in Florida where I live now, some PRP, so platelet-rich plasma injections. And I did about 15 rounds in my hip, which was a long period.
That's a lot.
It's extremely painful. And my hip was perfect. There was no more labrum tears. It was perfectly healed. And then, ironically, I was coming home from the airport. I passed out in the bathroom. I hit my face off the urinal, and I needed a bunch of stitches across my face. And the next day, I passed out again on a trampoline during Thanksgiving, and my shoulder went into my rib cage. It just popped completely out. And
at what point? I mean, you're going through your detox setback. At what point do you just have to dial back and say, you know what, things aren't going in my direction right now. I probably should be a little more careful.
No, I love this guy. He can take a punch. You know, the hockey player is forward here. Like, don't stop. You know, I would actually say pro his approach, which is a little bit insane, but I will say he is up and
Why?
active.
Because that is insane. He got so okay, you're in the airport, you're pushing yourself, whatever, you pass out there, okay.
Fine.
But then, 24 hours later, now I'm on a trampoline.
I don't, maybe not a trampoline, but like we already know that like rebounding is great for the lymphatic system. So something I struggled with is when I got sick, I went down and I stopped moving because I was so dizzy, and the body can't heal when you're not active. So I think people who stay in motion and stay active tend to heal faster because they don't stop the body from working. Don't run your head into things and don't fall off trampolines. But aside from that, like I am very pro movement.
All right. So something gentle like being on a rebounder and maybe just bouncing, taking walks.
Well, and let's not fall off the trampoline. Like you could be an AFV, America's Funniest Home Videos, for trampolines all day. Maybe something different until you are not passing out.
Okay. All right. So we're on the same page. So I understand what you're saying. So it does take something to push through and keep moving, without a doubt. Yeah. And that's part of the depression too.
Yes.
It's just if you just get couch bound,
and you never move again.
To get up.
Yep.
As an aside, I see with my older patients, my older acupuncture patients, the ones who are put in a wheelchair because of healing from whatever surgery they've had or whatever accident that they've had, the ones who fight to get out of it, I mean, it's a fight, right? Because their muscles are gone in 3, 4, 5, 7 days. They have to fight to get out of it because it's hard to stand again. The ones who fight do okay. The ones who give up, that's it. The wheelchair's their home for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
It's really remarkable. Okay, here we go.
I was told that, I tore my shoulder labrum like 90%. And I went to see the same doctor. We did a couple rounds there, but I started using frequency therapy in my shoulder because at the same time I was using frequency for the Lyme. So we can backtrack a bit. In 2017, one of my neighbors up the street had been diagnosed with Lyme disease after she thought that she had Bell's palsy. She was like half of her body was paralyzed. And she said that she met this like witch doctor in Detroit who uses frequency therapy. And she was 100% cured. When I was talking to her, she was working in LA. She was working like 20-hour days on a studio and just like really enjoying what she was doing. And I was wondering how she did that from the place that I was at to where she got. So I said, sure, we'll try out this witch doctor. And luckily my parents were able to take me there, and she was right. So the reason we started with her was because immediately when we saw her, she did like a body scan with me, a resonance scan. And she was able to tell us exactly what my blood work told us without us showing her the blood work. So she understood what co-infections I had, what like Lyme strains I had. There were 30 strains of Lyme. And she even showed us in more depth what the reader was telling us. So we decided to go ahead with it. And I got so much worse over a period of 3 months. So we knew it was working. So of course
did she prepare you for that? Like this make it worse?
I was in extreme turmoil in my brain, and it was hard. It was extremely hard. But at the same time, I had a great.
How did you know? Because you've been through hell, and everything from trampoline accidents to urinal accidents to crazy diving accidents. I mean, all kinds of just crazy stuff. Plus, you didn't even talk about how you beat yourself up playing hockey, and I know you did, but we're not even talking about that stuff.
Both shoulders reconstructed.
Exactly. So you used a beat up body. So you start seeing the witch doctor. You're still calling her the witch doctor. She suggests you do some weird stuff. And totally you go ahead and do it, and you start getting worse. But instead of saying, she's a witch doctor. She's making it worse. In the back of your mind, like, yes, let's go. This is
And it didn't
working. So
happen.
how did you get to that point?
I was still seeing Sam at, I want to remember the term. It's a Toronto-based clinic. It was like P3 Health or something. And he said that that's good. That's a sign, not good, but that's a sign that I'm herxing. A Herxheimer reaction. I'm killing something and my body's dealing with it. It's flushing through my organs and, I'm having a hard time. Maybe I should slow down. But he was really open to it. And he started implementing some frequency stuff at his clinic. And I thought that was great.
All right. There's Herx, and then there's a 3-month Herx. Can we have a discussion about this?
Oh man, I love it though. Like I think it's very much based on your personality, right? Slow healing is good for some people. When you're very sensitive, it's very essential. This guy is take it with the punches, right? And he's like, I'm gonna get better, I'm gonna go through it. So to each to their own, but man, I love it.
So, but what if, and this was the point I was trying to draw out of him, is like, what if he wasn't actually getting better and we're not having this conversation now and is actually being driven more into the ground? I mean, at what point do you say, okay, I've been herxing now for 12 months, 18 months, whatever that time frame is. 3 months is a long time. That's not a herx at that point. That's a series of herxes, or that's just, it's more than your body can handle. So what's left is for pain and inflammation and that sort of thing as your body tries to detox.
Yeah, but I think this is where you have to really trust your practitioner, right? Like if the practitioner can do bioscans and say we're making improvements, there's inflammation. I think there's an in-between, right? You're totally right that it's too much for some people, and you should not push your body to a level of being unhealthy to assume you're going to break through the fourth wall and just be better if you suffer.
But how do you, and maybe there's no answer to this question. I'm going to ask it again because I think this is really important for a lot of people making decisions. It's not about trust. So you trust your person, right? Who's saying, okay, do a therapy, whether it's antibiotics, IV, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. I trust you. I'm going to do this. I'm feeling worse. Okay, hang in there. Month 1. I'm still feeling worse. Matter of fact, I'm worse than I was month 2. That's all right. Hang in there. And then you go, when do you get to the point that you have to say, okay, it's time to switch horses. It's time to try something else. And the only thing I've gotten out of pushing people, and maybe you're going to give me the same answer too, is like there's some intuition kind of thing.
I would definitely say intuition. Like I think I've said a lot. I work with an herbalist, and there are moments that I was having symptoms that I went, this can't be right. Like this can't be what it has to be to get through this other level. And man, once I got to that other side, I believe her, and I believed it was necessary, and I didn't think there was a different way. And I also believe that some people push themselves. So I think it's intuition. I think it's knowing who you are and knowing if where you're going is going to get you there. And then also just trusting. Because I ask a lot of people who've gotten better. I say, what got you through? And they said, faith that I was going to get better. And there's no other answer, which is infuriating for everybody listening. I'm sorry, but.
Well, that's anything is like, I'm going to accomplish this.
Yep.
And the corollary to that is, or die trying.
Let's not do that. Like, suffer trying. That's not great either.
But that's the truth of it.
Yeah.
That's the truth of it. It's like the suffering's temporary because I know I'm going to get better.
Yeah.
And what's really cool, that the doctor who was injecting me with PRP actually started doing frequency stuff at his clinic. So, everybody was on board, which was great. If I had a doctor tell me that it was like BS and I shouldn't do it at that point in time, I probably wouldn't be how I am today because I was so locked into what other people were telling me.
Yeah.
But, my parents were on board. They said, let's keep doing it. And my dad was actually going to take me to Germany to do hyperthermia and like bee venom therapy. Like we were all ready for that. But the frequency was working. And then at the same time, like we switched my diet. I'm no longer eating like trash. And I was completely gluten and dairy free. But at the time, I literally thought that meant eliminate everything. So I was on like a whole foods diet, just vegetables, very limited carbs. We thought all carbs were gluten. We were very uneducated. So I had like no rice, no grain, nothing, and just a ton of protein and like no sauce, because we thought sauce was all gluten. And but it really helped. I cleared up a ton of inflammation. It really helped me with the Herx reactions, because I was able to handle them. And I got worse for a long time. And then when I started getting better, I actually hurt myself more. I told myself in my brain that this couldn't be real, and I set myself back about a year. I started regressing because I had such negative thought patterns. I was like, nobody gets through Lyme. And I'm looking at it in hindsight now, I can see that. When I was in it, I couldn't see. I thought that I was just getting another episode. I was going through like all these horrible things, and I brought back all of my symptoms. I gave myself what they call a chemical concussion. That was my diagnosis. I was stuck in a neck collar. I couldn't look at screens. I couldn't be in a car, just from my thoughts. And it was pretty serious. And it was this.
Man loves to hurt himself.
That's an interesting comment. He is a tough guy.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, he's a hockey player.
Yeah.
And hockey, I mean, old school hockey, you know, it's like, let's show how many teeth you got knocked out, right? And they smile at you, right? So, but it's interesting, this thought. We think about thought patterns as maybe affecting us mentally, emotionally. But, you know, this idea of the recurrence of the concussion symptoms, the recurrence of the Lyme symptoms, simply by there's a fancy word for ruminating, anyway, there's a fancy word for just having obsessive thoughts about, this can't be real, I'm going to get sick again.
Well, I'll actually say, so I've been doing the Primal Trust program that we've been talking about, and she made a very interesting point that she said, when you are triggered by something, it may not be what's happening to you now. It may be a memory of something that has happened to you when you did something in the past. And man, that has been so true to me. Like, I have PTSD responses to opening a car door and getting in a car. And I am triggered every single time. And that's what I'm working with, that to break that thing. But so I have a physical on the ground reaction. So this seems very logical to me, that the brain is set in this pattern of creating a catastrophic event where the brain panics, the chemicals go wrong. And it sounds crazy to other people, but I mean, I've very much experienced it, and it's very hard to break.
And let's pause there. LymeWarrior.us to learn about Primal Trust. It's an amazing training. It's all about getting your brain right, your mind right, your thought patterns right. It's a critical piece of healing. If you're not doing something like that, or if you're not satisfied with the program you're on now, check out Primal Trust. It's awesome.
Yep. And I was about to say, I know Jordan is a huge fan of maybe not Primal Trust, but the whole brain retraining thing. So I'm hoping he'll talk more about his experience with it.
All right. And we are coming out on 30 minutes. Are you all right to continue with this interview?
Let's go. Jordan has amazing things to say, so we'll keep rolling.
It's crazy thing, and it lasted about a year until my wife, now Lauren, basically pulled me out of it. It was detrimental thoughts. I started working with a coach. Who was a spiritual coach at the time. I wasn't very spiritual, and it was all about opening up, like, how my thoughts create my reality, and how my just like this. The one thing they said that stuck with me is that if thoughts can create an ulcer, they can also cure them. And I was like, that's pretty crazy to think about. Like, you can create an ulcer just from being stressed. So I now know that maybe it was like a cyclical thing. I was going through another possible like Lyme episode, but it took about a year, and then I got back to it. And by the end of the rifing, Kyle Morgan, who is my practitioner, who's passed away since then, she said, "You don't need to see me anymore. Bye." And I was like, "But I still feel pain." She's like, "No, you're showing nothing on your scans. It's probably in your mind. Go live your life." And it was habitual. I was stuck in like the habit of being in pain. And it took me so long to get out of that, like probably another year or so to get out of like the mental habit of being in pain.
That sounds stupid, but just remember, people have phantom limb pain, and it's real. They are in serious pain, and it's the habit, the brain and the nervous system's habit of being in pain. So we We are creatures of habits in so many ways.
And always thinking every time I got a little flu bug or like an ankle injury that, oh, this might be Lyme. Am I having Lyme again? So it was really.
I just have to pause there. Do you still go through this?
Oh man, every second. My pinky is aching. Man, I should hit my Lyme tincture. Man, that's me still.
And so do you hit your Lyme tincture just to go through the motion of it? Or are you training yourself to, okay, calm down, take a breath, let's...
No, I am still very much in the hit it and it doesn't react. And so I'm like, okay, there's no reaction. It's not active and present. You have to deal with whatever
else is going on. Okay,
else
so you
is going
tested.
on.
Like,
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Hard to break that cycle.
And that was my last question for you. You mentioned it took about a year to trust your healing.
Mm-hmm.
So that each time you didn't have a nickel, to borrow a Australian phrase or New Zealand phrase. I've been watching rugby, so sometimes
Nice.
a niggle.
Yeah, the All Blacks.
Yeah, exactly. A minor injury is a niggle. So every time, out. And was that part of the spiritual coaching, the mindset coaching that helped you get through that?
Yeah, and I started reading a lot of like Napoleon Hill and Joe Dispenza and Tony Robbins, and I got into the Tony Robbins circle. I started doing all the events, and I saw that just from an immersive weekend, like maybe longer, maybe 3 full days of, we did like Embrace the Power Within or something like that, or I don't remember my life. We did it virtually, so we didn't physically do it, but I felt so different.
Yeah.
I just felt like I changed, and I realized like the synapses in my brain had changed. I'm forming new like connections. I have a goal. And what really got me through the period of not doing well was something that I didn't realize was so powerful at the time. It was when I met Lauren. She met my wife now, the mother of my child. I was extremely sick, and she saw something in me, and I had so much negativity about myself. But the one thing that I did see was throwing a ball with my future son. I know that it seems like I'm making that up now, but it's true. When I was extremely sick, the one thing that got me through is I was like, I can't do this vision if I stay sick. I need to get through. And it felt me like being pulled. I was called to it. And then I was called to help other people. And I realized that as a singular person, I wasn't helping enough. And there was less trust with just me. And I wanted to build this community of helpers and healers. And that's kind of what got me into what I'm doing now. But yeah, the biggest change was having something to get better for. And it wasn't myself, it was outside of myself.
And with a very short story, one of my earliest lessons as a brand newly minted acupuncturist was I had a couple ladies come in, and this was in Southern Maryland 30 years ago. They were both in pretty rough shape with just arthritis, but a lifetime of unhappiness and inflammation. And one of them basically dragged themselves out of bed to the easy chair and watched TV most of the day and was pretty miserable. The other lady got up and shuffled to the kitchen and watched bluebirds, her bluebirds. And she lived for this family of bluebirds that would come back every spring, and she'd watch them grow and fledge and get out of the nest and make a new brood and start all over again. And that little bit of motivation, that was a lesson, because I was a young man. It's like everybody needs a giant dream. You need to change the world.
Yeah.
And hers was just what are the bluebirds doing today? And that was enough to get her up and going and have a much more fulfilling life than this other woman who wasn't even quite in as bad shape, but she had nothing to live for, literally, other than her TV shows. And that's not a lot. So having a vision, even a small vision, and yours is actually a really big vision, but it's a very simple thing. It's not a, I don't want to take away from it because it's very profound, to have a child and to spend time with the child and all. Is there anything more important in the world? But it's not, I'm going to change the world, found a company, make $1 million, meet Tony Robbins, share the stage with them, all this kind of ego. I don't even say ego driven, but all these big flashy things that you want to post on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah. And I mean, that element's there too. It didn't come until I got better, but the impact is more than the $1 million dream. But I totally agree with you. And like what I've learned from being immersed in like the Napoleon Hill, the 1930s books world is that like people need three things. And the one thing is they need a definite purpose. And not like through the studies in the book, 98% of people don't know what they want to do. So they're just living life on autopilot. Then you need a plan. How are you going to do it? It doesn't need to work out with your plan, but it needs to be there. And then you just need to take massive action. So
Lauren, what's your purpose?
Oh man, my purpose changes a lot. So
What's your purpose today?
my purpose is very vague at this point, but it's to have a more positive impact on the world than when I left it. And that was actually like the core of founding Lyme Warrior, is saying through what I am experiencing, I want less people to experience it. So that's actually what I founded the whole thing on. Like he says, the execution is tough, and I wouldn't say we're the biggest nonprofit in the world, so that's where that dream and the reality. And I think that's, I know Jordan does some really amazing coaching, and maybe he's not changing hundreds of thousands of people's lives, but he's having a very profound impact on some people's lives. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Almost done.
I think that the number one thing that helped me get through is the purpose. I had a purpose. I was going to get better. And then doubt was gone. As soon as I had a purpose, I had no doubt. And I think that's what got me through it.
Amazing. I am always amazed how often healing from Lyme disease comes back to a spiritual transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And we really don't have good language to explain what a spirit is. The Chinese have some ideas about that, but they don't translate well into English. So I still haven't, after 30 years, still haven't wrapped my mind around it. But there's body, mind, and spirit. And it's not the mind, it's not the body, but it's not your soul. That's the other thing. It's not your soul necessarily. The soul that's a different religious concept. There's spirit. So they put spirit in like the ability to think clearly, the ability to have willpower. It's more like what Napoleon Hill is going for, the ability to enjoy life, to savor the good things in life, the ability to be connected to a higher purpose, a purpose bigger than yourself, even if it is whatever that is. And then there's your own unique stamp, right? So those are the 5 spirits in Chinese medicine. They all have Chinese names, but. And they all share the same name too. They're Shens, various Shens, Shen. Cool. So but it's when your spirit's broken, and it's hard to know when your spirit's broken, because sometimes we think it's our body and sometimes we think it's our mind. How sad is it that I'm agreeing
Western
with
medicine, we don't have a spirit
okay, you're absolutely
based
right.
medicine. So when your spirit's broken and they keep going after, you got a positive think. It's not about positive thinking. Or mind over matter. Just if you want it bad enough, you can get up off the chair and, go walk a mile. No, you can't. You really just
absolutely can't. Yeah. Like there is such a thing as toxic positivity, because if you're saying something and you inherently don't like it, it's not a fun place to be. And I've tried that. So that's not good.
I'm going to steal that toxic positivity. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan, thank you so much for your time and for your insights
Absolutely.
and for your passion. And I know you've got this project going on. Why don't you go ahead and share with everybody the website and explain a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure. So over the past few years, since I got better, I finished my business degree, I became a licensed personal trainer, and then I became a licensed health and life coach. And I was helping others across their Lyme journey, chronic illness journey, just their journeys in general get better. And I realized that there's this whole network of 100,000 other people that are equally or more qualified than myself that are really hard to reach. And it's hard to justify working with someone. I mean, everybody had the same Wix website, similar testimonials. And what I've done is I've built in a method of trust. So I built a marketplace that connects potential clients with health coaches, and they're all vetted by my team. So coaches submit certifications, experience. We have a one-to-one call like this with every single coach. And we're at just about 300 coaches now, from everything from sex coaching to chronic illness coaching, spirituality coaching, and everything in between. And we relaunch actually on August 25th with a really easy booking flow. You simply land on a profile you like and you book with that coach. And the reason I've done it is just from my own personal journey. I want to help others. And if you are a health coach or someone that helps others, we're 100% free to join. We just work on a transaction basis. So when you make money and we make money, we don't charge you otherwise. It's a really friendly place to be. We have monthly master classes, weekly community calls, and we're looking to, I guess, change the face of health. So that's what I'm working on. The website is www.hatchpath.io. Hatching like an egg, path like your journey. So it's about birthing your new journey. And that's it. That's everything.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. That's a wrap.
I love Jordan so much.
Me too. And thank you for making that introduction and putting us in touch. It's so awesome to hear the real struggles, right? The struggles, if you're out there struggling, yes, that's the work to be done, is to struggle. Healing, getting through chronic Lyme when things have gone sideways and you're not feeling well, it's not easy. It is going to be the most difficult thing you and most of the people around you have been through. And that's just the way it is. There's no grace in it. You heard his struggle, and recovery and getting out of his own way and figuring out his own brain was thinking patterns was part of the problem. Even after he was feeling better, he went all the way back, but not to give up, not to give up.
Well, I think what's very specific too is he listed one specific somatic therapy. He said, I created a vision that was not within reality at all, and I moved towards that. And that's actually a staple of most brain retraining programs, is creating a very high sense, immersing yourself in the feeling. And they said it works because the brain doesn't understand time. If you can envision yourself in that space, it actually takes your brain there instead of where you are currently. And if you practice that, you can bring your brain there. I think that's so cool. And like he said, that vision of having a child, which is beyond cool, that's literally what's happening in his life right now, right? Like, I think his child is like a week old, and like, how amazing is that? So to be able to manifest that from a place of chronic illness where that's not even possible, and people say, well, that's not going to happen to me. Well, it could.
When we were coaching, when I was coaching, not you and me, but we were coaching some of our very, very successful teams. One of the postseason visualizations we did was walking through the line after the game as a winner, shaking the opponent's hand. And we had a little with the other coach, so we like to see her being beaten. But that was the powerful. It's like, you visualize, and again, what it's going to feel like. Is your hand sweaty? What is the expression on their faces? Feeling your teammates in front of, behind you, to make it real as possible. But on the other end of it, up to that point, we had been doing more visualization. Okay, visualize, making the perfect pass and scoring the goal. No, you visualize the end of it, and the brain will take care of all the pieces in between. It'll start putting those puzzle pieces together. Like, how do I get there? So thank you for sharing that tip. And if you do want to check out Primal Trust, please go to limewarrior.us and scroll down, and you'll see the Primal Trust program. There's like a free introduction. What's available on your site?
I was about to say, some of them have free trials, some of them don't. We have, Primal Trust, we have Gupta, we have DNRS, they have various things, but I really encourage everybody to just try like a couple of them if you are able to, or make a commitment to one. I think they're all amazing, and they all just resonate with different people. So not a specific offer, just try one of them or try two of them.
Primal Trust is on limewarrior.us.
We do like Primal Trust.
Yes, give it a try if you haven't. If the other ones aren't working for you, give it a try. All right, Lauren, thank you for soldiering through. Thank you for being semi-conscious. Maybe next time we'll get you semi-conscious, kind of like.
I know, maybe full conscious one day. That's what I'm aspiring to.
I can't imagine you full conscious.
No, it's a lot.
Look out, world.
Yep.
All right. Take
Thanks,
care,
Mackay.
everybody. Yep, we'll see you when you see you, hopefully next week, but it'll be good when we get there.
Yep.
Ciao for now.
Lyme Ninja Radio is a purely public broadcast and is not intended to be personalized medical advice for any individual's specific situation. Each individual's medical situation is unique, and Lyme Ninja Radio should not be relied upon and/or considered as personalized medical advice. Lyme Ninja Radio is not licensed to render medical advice and should be considered simply the public opinion of Lyme Ninja Radio and its guests. Recommendations on specific treatment options are not intended to address any listener's particular medical situation. As always, contact your physician before considering any new treatment.